The third and final suspect appearing in court earlier today following last month's shooting in Holyoke that claimed the life of a baby and injured his mother, who was pregnant with him at the time.
Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson is live for us in Holyoke with the latest details from inside the courtroom. Maria, what can you tell us?
Abby, Chris, that third suspect evaded police for nearly a month. Now he had his day in court, pleading not guilty to murder. Western Mass News cameras were rolling when the third suspect, Kermith Alvarez, appeared before a judge for the first time since last month's fatal daytime shooting in downtown Holyoke.
Mr. Alvarez will be held without right to bail.
Alvarez pleading not guilty to one count of murder in connection with the gunfight that broke out near a bus stop last month. An expecting mother was on that bus and was injured during the incident. She survived, but her infant son Ezekiel was killed. Following that shooting, Alvarez was on the run for nearly a month and was placed on the Massachusetts State Police 10 Most Wanted list. On Friday, the 28-year-old turned himself in to authorities. The two other suspects, 30-year-old John Luis Sanchez and 22-year-old Alejandro Ramos, were arraigned last month. The shooting sent shockwaves throughout the city of Holyoke and became the inspiration for Mayor Joshua Garcia's new safety plan, named in honor of baby Ezekiel, who lost his life during that shooting. Ezekiel's plan, Operation Safe Streets, calls for $1 million in new spending that would launch a comprehensive approach to quelling violence throughout the city and make residents feel safer. Some key components of that plan include hiring 13 additional police officers, installing a statewide surveillance camera system, and an increase in inspections of rental property. Ezekiel's plan will come before the Holyoke City Council for their approval during a meeting on Thursday. As for Alvarez, he is scheduled to reappear before a judge early next month for his pre-trial hearing. For now, reporting live in Holyoke, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.